conversation about live streaming. So feel free to interject, to argue, to whatever, have a conversation as well. Because as Keith was mentioning, we really want to sort of push the limits in terms of what we can do and how we can do live streaming for business, because that's been sort of the goal here as well. So hopefully we're live now. I'm just going to go back and check and make sure that our control panel is all running, and it looks like it actually is. So fantastic. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay with between tech and tools and people and around the world and that sort of thing. So we've got some really exciting things going on today. We're going to be talking about to stream or not to stream. And that is the question that we're asking today, right? So are you really ready for live streaming? And we're live here with Livestreaming Decoded, where you can learn the strategies, tools, and the live streaming platforms that your business needs to deliver your message anytime, any place with live streaming ABC. My name is Joel Bueller, and we're all here together with a bunch of guests from around the world, which we'll introduce very, very shortly. And I'm here with my co-host, Keith Keller, on an amazing live streaming session where we're using Zoom as the platform and Restream as the live broadcaster. So we're kind of bringing in a bunch of different tech to see how can we actually create the biggest impact and the biggest platform around here as well.
Yeah.
So cool. Keith, quick intro, and then let's get to our amazing guests.
So we're trying Zoom and Restream today on our last episode of this season 1, to stream or not to stream. We're going to ask our guests, is streaming a thing? Is it worth pre-recording and doing it that way, or is streaming just the gun? And we're all going to have different opinions and different experiences. So I won't take too much time. I want to get to the guests, ask them what they're doing. We're all busy. Some of them will drop in and out. Some will come later. But we can have up to 100 guests, so anything could happen. Anything could happen.
Yeah, and that was the intent of it, is opening it up, really, because there's some restrictions with live. And again, we wanted to see if we could actually open those up. Zoom is more of an engaging platform because you're direct with people, whereas live streaming, yes, you're broadcasting and you can bring in guests, but the interaction is a little bit lower, a little bit less, because you can only really do it as the audience by watching. So we wanted to say, hey, audience, guests, everybody come on and we'll get the show started. So let's get the show started and let's get everybody to introduce themselves. So Doug, we'll start with you. You're top right at this moment. So
Doug Morneau from sunny Vancouver, Canada. Happy to be here.
Welcome, Doug. And Julie, actually, let me give you a quick little, if you can, when you do the introduction, if you wouldn't mind just answering a few questions so we all kind of get to know who you are. So who are you, where you're from, your business, what you do, and a quick little take on live streaming as well. So Doug, do you want to let's go for take two. Take two.
Didn't do it in one take. So Doug Morneau, I live in Vancouver, Canada. I'm a direct response marketing guy. I focus primarily on marketing strategy and lead generation for my clients wanting to expand into the US. Live streaming, I guess my take on that is, like anything else, test it.
100%. Thanks, Doug. Cool. All right, Crystal, you're next.
Hey there. Crystal Williamson. I'm here in New York. Yes, I do talk like that. Life coach, personal business coach, and the name of my coaching company is Small Changes Are Huge. I love live streaming. Reminds me when I get a nervous wreck before I go live. I do like it. It's all about preparation. That's what I find. Then you have a good live stream.
Fantastic. Thanks, Crystal. And Gail, you're next, right in the middle of my screen.
Right in the middle of my own screen. Hi, I'm Gail Murphy. I'm here in Hollywood, beautiful downtown Hollywood, California, where it's about 78 degrees and the sun is still up. I am the celebritizer. I teach CEOs, showbiz pros, authors, experts, entrepreneurs how to use the media effectively and successfully in their business.
Fantastic.
I'm also a speaker and an author.
Excellent. Thanks, Gail. And Julie, welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the invite. I'm Julie Parker. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area here in California, and I'm an affiliate marketer with a program called You Are a CEO. It teaches professional development and personal development, things like effective communication. And we do totally love live streaming. We do it all the time as well as do recorded segments. So I'm super excited to join the convo.
Fantastic. All right. And then we have Sarjeet Johal. Welcome.
Thanks. I wasn't mute. Hi, this is Sarjeet Johal from Silicon Valley, California. So I have 2 more Californians. So we are 3 now. So we are outnumbering you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, on the live streaming, actually, I think, as Doug said, test. Actually, that's we learned that lesson hard way for when SAP's event went live on Monday, their annual event, and it was not a good experience. So it doesn't matter if you're individually doing it or a company. You need a backup strategy if just in case things don't work.
Yeah, 100%. All right, welcome, Sarjeet,
Michael.
and Michael. Yeah. Welcome, Michael.
Hello, Doyle. How are you? Hello,
Yeah,
everyone.
fantastic.
So I'm Michael Haynes. My business is called Listen, Innovate, Grow. I'm based here in Sydney, Australia, originally from Toronto. My business focuses on working with small and medium-sized businesses in the B2B space, helping them with their customer marketing and growth strategies. And in terms of live stream, I'm very much a novice, done a little bit, looking to do a lot more, ramping up as we move here down under into the new financial year. So happy to get into the conversation, learn, and yeah, great to be here.
Awesome. Isn't that cool? Keith, we've got people from all around the world. I'm an ex-Canadian. I'm living in Australia. You're in Australia. Michael's in Australia. And then we have Doug from Canada, and Julie, Gail, Sarjeet, and Crystal from the US. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, look, the thing I love, I got to say this right now. The thing I love is that we've got 8 people live on the call, and it's only because we've connected Zoom with Restream that we've been able to do that.
So that's a tech milestone, ladies and gentlemen.
So, as Doyle has said, he's graciously fed my obsession with Periscope. I might be the only person in the world that's obsessed with it, but the point is that we now have 8 people live on Zoom on Periscope. Now, I'm very confident I've never seen that done before, because you cannot have Zoom to Periscope. We worked out how to do it with Restream. Now let's see how far we can take the idea with more people, more sites, more conversations, and more fun.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you can't, we looked at it and said, for our last part 10, we really kind of wanted to bring everything together, talk about the highlights of restreaming, what's really important. And it's like, well, how can we create that maximum level of engagement? And Zoom, again, as we talked about at the beginning, you can get up to like 100 people on plan A or whatever, but you can also go live with Zoom. And just to clarify, like, you can go live on Zoom. You've got a choice. You can go with Facebook, YouTube, or a custom streaming service. I haven't seen many sessions that are live with multiple people like this, where you can actually do that. So we use the multiple streaming service, and in this case, we're using Restream.io, which takes the feed from Zoom and then rebroadcasts it to all the different channels that you have. So it's really fascinating, because you can have up to 30 channels, but not necessarily that you'd want to use 30 channels. Otherwise, you might have people flipping the channel all the time.
Let me play on why that would work.
Yeah.
If you have 30 different configurations, you might have 5 channels, but I might have 5 channels. So that's 10 channels.
Yeah.
So, if you had 6 really great or 8 really great guests and they all had 5 channels, a Facebook page, a Facebook group, a Facebook profile, a Periscope account, a LinkedIn Live account, that's 5. And you multiplied that by 6 or 8 guests. So we must be reaching millions of people now.
Well, that was my idea, Keith, or my thinking as well. I mean, each of the guests that are on here today have a number of channels. So they don't need to be the same channels. They just need to be the channels that are strong with your audience.
Yeah.
And initially, I mean, a lot of the live streaming is just coming and broadcasting, not sort of in a shotgun manner. You still want to have sort of focus on your audience, but at the same time, if you can reach them as sort of an introductory type method in terms of your content, that's really what you want to do. And then you can obviously drive further in terms of the business for, Facebook groups, or, your Twitter or your courses or whatever the case may be. So it gives you that opportunity to say, hey, I can be network capable from Perth, Australia, or Melbourne, Australia, or Hollywood, California kind of thing, which I believe is truly fascinating. And that's sort of the revolutionary part of it. So go ahead, Keith.
I read today an article, and I'm pretty sure most people in this group, this would concede, the idea of cheap and easy travel is possibly gone forever, and at the very least a few years. So the idea of being able to flip over to Asia for $200 and stay the night is gone. So we have to find a way to communicate in the new world, in what we call the new normal. I live in Melbourne, Australia. We've always been a long way away, but now
as far as Perth.
Well, it's quicker to go to New Zealand than it is to go to Perth.
Yeah.
And so, we've always been a long way away, and it's always been a relatively hard ask, but now it's going to be harder. So what we're doing here is we have people all over the world: New York, LA, San Francisco, Vancouver, Melbourne, Sydney, Perth. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, I love it. All right.
Is this our grand finale, guys? Is this grand finale?
Well, this is series
season
one. Yeah, this
Okay.
is the end of series one.
Yeah, there's
so-
fireworks at the end, so folks stay for the fireworks.
Yeah, actually, I should have had
I'm
the
gonna
green
sing.
for that. Oh yeah, Keith will sing, or Keith will laugh
Here
for
we
us.
go. Here we go. I want to capture that laugh
We have to do
and
it.
trademark that.
Make it your
Yeah.
ringtone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be good. Actually, we'll grab some recordings and we'll use those as sound loops for the
Yeah,
next
that
one.
would be great.
Make sure you get residuals, Keith.
Yeah,
that's
there
right.
you go.
Who would have thought that I could make a living out of just laughing?
Hey,
You
a lot
can.
of in the town I live, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
that's
you
true.
go.
Hollywood.
Yeah. So let's get into a couple of questions here, and whoever wants to answer first or whatever, we can go around the room too, or if you don't want to answer, that's totally fine too. But we want to get a good idea of how do you use live streaming, and if you're just sort of getting into it, that's totally cool too. We'd love to hear sort of your adventures of getting into it. So how have you used it? How has it helped you? What's been your biggest challenge, kind of thing, and then maybe a tip on how to get started for somebody else looking to kind of go and get rolling. And Sarjeet, I think you had said through Keith that you had to leave soon, or
I'm leaving in 15, so yeah.
okay, all right.
You can go first.
Maybe would you mind going first then, and just
Yeah,
telling
sure.
us about your experience?
If you think other people are going to take more than 15 minutes, yes. So yeah, I am just getting into it. I think I was doing my vlog last year, and I did 6 episodes like for 6 weeks, and it was so much work because I had to film and then edit, and then when you know that you can edit, then you end up retaking the shots and perfecting it, and then after that you're editing it and fixing the sound and all that stuff. I think live takes that all away, extra work. I think live cuts that work down to maybe 1/4 or so. And then on top of that, it's very authentic. You come as vulnerable as like you are talking on the stage. And also I think helps me improving my being on the stage, if you will. I think we talked about a couple of times. And I'm a cloud practitioner, and I talk about technology, and I plan to do it every week, but I haven't gathered the courage to do it so far, like every week. But I go live on as need basis. Right now. Yeah, it's kind of fun.
What makes it fun? And please, everybody, feel free to ask questions too. Like, I'm not just the only one that wants to talk. I'm sure.
Yeah. What makes it fun is that you just write the top level headings, and then you are talking from your gut. You're not scripted, and you're talking from your experience, right? You're not relaying somebody's information. Like you're just distributing stuff, and you're mixing that information you read from books, and you're doing hands-on work and giving it out to the public. I think it's the best form of information you can.
So are you doing your solo then, Sarjeet? Are you doing your solo, or you have guests?
Right now I'm doing just solo, actually. I have invited guests. Like you were like my first time I went live, you were there, right? And Neeraj was there that day. I was testing my equipment and stuff like that. Yeah, I have, of course, like I go on Zoom meetings and all kind of live like meetings like within controlled environment, but live, I have done it on 4 platforms at once, and that was kind of well received. And then there's a fear, like I don't want to just go live because I want to go live. So what if I go live every week and people say, okay, this dude is always here, like what he's talking about. So like I have that fear, right? So like what will I
The imposter syndrome.
yeah,
That
imposter
is the fear,
syndrome
and
kicks
it's
in.
real. Yeah.
It's real. It kicks in. A lot of people tell me to do that, and they encourage me to that. But still, as I said, I am creating a list of topics right now, and lists of guests. I'm preparing that. I'm redoing my website, so when people see me, they can go to some place and see like who I am and what I do. And I'm learning from other people's mistakes also. Like we're watching a lot of people who go live, see like what went wrong.
Well, you learned a lot from us then. Everything.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
We talked
making
about
every
it.
single mistake in the book, and we're making the book.
Let me pick up on that. You know, I'm very proud of the fact that we are bashing into walls every week. And we make really massive errors, but in a way, that's the point of the show. Like our show's almost like you watch us fail live. And I don't even know how stupid that sounds, but the point is that we have tried things that have gone miserably wrong. But
it's a new reality show there, Keith. New reality TV.
But it's like
it's
a story to tell. I mean, it's a story to tell. Like,
and what I was thinking is that you're learning from those catastrophes. So, and the audience is there with you, learning from those same things. And if you're authentic, I like what Keith said. It's like when you're authentic, that shines through the live stream more than anything else.
Yeah, and this is a test too. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, Doyle. Crystal's point, I fully agree. And as someone who's very much low, I almost classify myself as a techno retard. Coming here and being able to see you guys, do your
politically
thing,
correct word,
hear your perspective. It's really good for me. So there's great value. And to Sarbjeet's point about being authentic and just really talking and combining what you know really adds a lot of value in an authentic way. And I'm finding in this environment, people want that. They don't want scripted and polished, but they want ideas. They want some of your perspective from an experience perspective, but also, well, what do you know from the different studies and stuff? So bring it all together, as he pointed out, in a very authentic, unscripted way is, I'm finding that to be quite effective because people want certainty, they want confidence. They don't necessarily want glossy, they want real, what they can relate to and what's going to give them confidence to decide what to do moving forward. So,
yeah, when the whole COVID thing hit, I just thought, hey, you know, I've got a little bit more time. Or actually, I didn't really have any more time, but I decided anyhow that I would just start live streaming. So I started looking around. I signed up for a StreamYard account, the free account, used it once, went, that's cool, got the paid account. And then in my typical go forward fashion, I said, okay, I'm going to do a live stream every day, 5 days a week. And I did 30 of them. And I invited guests and just talked about, like you said, organic. So how are you? What does your business do? Who do you serve? How's COVID affecting your business? How's COVID affecting your customers? And obviously I knew that'd be a short-term thing because eventually this pandemic would go away. But I've been hosting a podcast now for a little over 2 years. So I've got over 200 episodes in my podcast. And now I'm going to reduce my podcast episodes to 1 a week and do some more live streaming. But I think with live streaming, it's very similar to a podcast. If you want to build your audience and build your trust, you need to set a schedule and be consistent. So, I mean, I've tried my best over the last 2.5 years to every Tuesday and Thursday release a new podcast episode. I haven't achieved that every week. You know, guests cancel, things happen. But I think if you can get to at least some schedule that people can rely that every day, you know, I'm going to go see this guy at 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock. It'll go a long way in building your audience.
Can I pick up on that question? How important do you think is the regularity thing? Our show has been every week for 10 weeks at 11 a.m. Melbourne time. How important is that?
I think it's important. If you do it randomly, how do you build a relationship with your audience? How do you get a raving fan if they don't know when you're going to be live? You just, hey, he's live now. Well, you know, there's lots of guys that are live that I literally take my phone and I'm driving to the gym and I'm watching my buddies live from the East Coast US because I want to see it in minutes before I have to shut it off. So, I mean, I know he's live every morning at 6 a.m.
So that could be a good ranking then. It's like, do you turn your live stream on for you driving to across the city?
Yeah, there you go.
So Doug, did you turn on your mobile to watch us last week?
I didn't. I
Oh.
can't remember where I was. I can't remember where I was last week.
So Doug's rating scale, we score like 1 star.
No,
we had a good show last week.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
We had some amazing
I've
guests.
got a couple questions.
Yeah.
I stream like this. I don't do it for myself. I'm a guest. People interview me, and that's all good, and I love that. Streaming is the authentic reality show in the age of the new normal.
Yeah.
And since it's all about business and audience and making a little dash in the meantime, what is the difference between live streaming like this and having a YouTube channel?
What's this?
I think that has to do with engagement of the audience. With YouTube, you're basically pushing out content. When you're doing something like that, you're actually giving your audience an opportunity to engage with you, which people want to be a part of the conversation. They just don't want it to be one-sided. We broadcast consistently on Mondays and Wednesdays, and we found that distributing our channels through YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, our own website, you get consistent followers. So I think allowing people to talk back is important. You can't always do that. It depends how many people are watching.
Yeah, I think it's like if you take an analogy, if you're selling a product, if you're building a product, like your product is available only in Walmart, not in Walgreens, not in CVS. So it's that analogy. So you can be in multiple places. People can get to it. Another thing is on YouTube, most of the people produce the show and put it out there. You can go, or you can go live on YouTube, right? But then still, that's still one channel, one channel. Yeah, one channel. Yeah.
I think it gives you a chance to serve your audience differently too. Like, even the podcast is produced, so you don't have any input. You can't ask my guest a question. You can't have any feedback. And I try to have our conversations organically. I have some basic questions for my guests in my podcast, but I say, we just want to have a good, fun conversation. Like we're sitting down, having a glass of wine, not scripted, and see where the conversation goes and kind of draw out people's superpowers. And I think the opportunity for the audience to ask a question could totally change the trajectory of your live in a good way that could serve them and in a way that you hadn't thought of. So, more people, more minds, probably a better idea.
Okay, follow up.
Go ahead. Yeah, please.
So live stream, so the word casual really has a lot of meaning in the way in which you're describing it. Are most live streams casual?
I think they are, definitely. I mean, we've always done them in a casual format, unless we're having some big high profile guest, we would fix up our studio a little more and, suit up. But in general, they're pretty casual for me.
Actually, these days. You're at home.
Right.
Right.
And I think people prefer it. I think it's more part of that authenticity. Like if my kids or my dog come in here, nobody's freaked out anymore. It's just like we're all living our lives, and this is my business, and here's my life too. It's almost like a little bit of a fuzzy.
I think the world's changed. Yeah.
I have another question. Sorry, I can't help it. You guys are speaking my brain, and I don't.
You should have answers. You're Hollywood. No,
you're hired.
You're Hollywood,
you're
right? You should have answers for us, not questions.
Well, I'm a reporter by trade as well, so I can't help it. And I was with a bunch of really boring people earlier in the day, so this is great for me. Why is it so important to be authentic? I mean, why does that notch up your value so much? I mean, if your kids I come from broadcast media where everything is completely controlled. Why is it so important if the phone rings or the kid comes in or the dog eats your homework? Why is that specific? I mean, it almost sounds like we kind of wait for those moments. I mean, if they happen, they happen. We don't encourage them, but what's the secret sauce?
I personally love authentic people. I don't like phony stuff. although it's part of our culture. I love when somebody's real, no matter what's going on. There's just something likable about somebody who's authentic and something distasteful about someone who's just not being real.
Well, how could you tell? I mean, by the dog coming in or the UPS guy showing up?
I think
why does that make your information that much better?
For me, that which comes from the heart reaches the heart. You know, you can tell when I first was approached by these guys. I mean, I just felt sincerity, genuineness. I'm like, I like these guys. I'm connecting.
It's a great question because,
Thanks, yeah.
you know, there's a couple of things going on with your answers there, Gail. The YouTube component it's almost painfully scripted. You know, you see stuff and it's glorious and it's in 4K and the background's lovely and it's lovely lighting and everything's in its place and the editing's perfect. And you think, well, it's so perfect that it's actually boring. You know, it's so perfect that, you know, I've seen people speaking at the camera and you can tell they're reading it. You know, and they're talking and everything's perfect and they cut out the ums and the ahs and there's no dogs in the background. You can't see the washing and there's no one flushing the toilet. And you think, well, that's great. That's probably important. But it sounds almost a bit fake. It's not fake.
Yeah, but I don't think there's anything wrong with having good production. Like we've got grandkids now, and Thursday I record my podcast. So if the grandkids come over Thursday, I know they're going to go in the yard because we've got property and go play with my wife while I'm on podcast. Because my grandson, if he was here now, would be on my lap. And he'd want to see who I'm talking to on the Zoom call. Yeah. And it's not that we're being unauthentic. I'm just trying to produce a good quality experience for the guest. So if the UPS guy shows up, he shows up, but I'm not going to script that. I mean, there's other people who I've seen before that will, you know, I've seen a certain speaker, I won't name them. Every time I see him, he cries on stage at the same cue. So I just know, yeah, here comes his cue. He's getting ready. The tears are going to roll. He's going to tell his sad story. That's not authentic either. It's supposed to look that way. But I think the difference between live is you can see people, see their expressions, ask them questions. I've had podcast guests. My worst podcast guests to date have been PR companies because they prepare their answers. So I have a PR company. I ask him a question and he starts reading a script. It's like, dude, it's a podcast. I can tell you're reading a script. Like I just asked you a question and talk in sound bites. Like you've been talking for 15 minutes. Take a breath.
That is real right there in front of you. I think, I think authenticity is important because it creates relatability because I am like that. So are you. So we are like similar. So it shrinks the gap between the people who are watching and people who are talking. I think it's all about the gap, reducing that gap. So creating that relatability.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, there's calls that I'll put a button shirt on if I've got a client meeting. So most times, like I did a call today, I just got in from the gym. So it was all sweaty and I just put a ball cap on because my hair was pretty ugly. And, you know, the guy I was meeting with owned a big company and he was in his Under Armour gear and he'd clearly just come from the gym as well, different parts of the world. But if I've got a business meeting, often my wife will go, hey, you got a Zoom call with that's business. I said, how do you know? I'm in my shorts and I'm putting on a button down shirt, right? So
what's the, go ahead. Well, what's the difference between authentic and professional? I mean, do you have to be both? Or should you be more authentic than professional, or does it matter?
But you can be both, I'd argue.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
you can be both. As
Well,
someone,
you should. I would say you should be, right?
You should be both, and you can.
Well, you should have a lot of tricks up your sleeve.
I was with a live stream from Canada, and we had guests from around the world. And one fella, I mean, he was in the environment. He was in some beach in Thailand, but he came with his string shirt and shorts and everything. So, but it was quite a formal meeting, and I was kind of surprised. It's like, okay, maybe actually that's why they didn't broadcast it or repurpose it. Go ahead,
Keith Doyle. Actually, keep this great work going. I'm leaving.
You have 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Sarjeet, do you have 30? Sarjeet, do you have 30 seconds?
Yeah, I do.
Can we do this?
Sure. Whatever. Okay, sure. What I need to do
grab
something?
one.
Do I have something?
Have one.
Yes.
Yes.
I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't have one. Oh,
No.
okay,
I don't
that's
have
okay.
one either.
Okay, make a hand signal.
We'll do it.
Okay,
next time.
what is it? I can do it. So tell me.
No. We just wanted to show. We had a message board that we were going to do on Zoom, but that's okay.
You can only print out one at a time, so not everyone's
Yeah,
getting all of the
that's
other
okay.
things. But we'll do that for next time.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we'll do it next time.
Thanks, Sarjeet.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Good
please
to see
come
you
back
again.
if you can.
Take care, my friend.
Bye. Thanks.
Yeah, so we're talking about professionalism versus authenticity. Do you have to do both?
Well, I think authenticity is really the umbrella, and it's really how you present it. And so I can be pretty freaking authentic when I go to the bank, and I can be pretty authentic when I'm talking, maybe live streaming like this, and I'm talking about surfing. And so authenticity, I think, is in your head. I don't think you can visibly, in any authentic way, display that you're authentic, because people have more than their eyes. They have their gut, they have their ears. Authentic is authentic, it's telling the truth.
Yeah, so I can't give myself a 5 stars for authenticity. You have to give me 5 stars for authenticity, right?
Oh yeah.
Or 3 stars.
Well, if you are, people
We'll
will
hold up
know.
our
You
cards
can't
now.
help it. It's like a great smile.
Yeah.
That people just like fall in love with you in like 5 seconds, right? You can't help it. Either you are authentic or you're not. And if you're not authentic and you're open to feedback and you open yourself up to people that you know and say, people say that I'm stiff and that they don't believe what I'm saying. What am I doing wrong? And they're saying you're coming across being inauthentic. I don't think they are inauthentic, but that's how it's broadcasting out.
Yeah.
And
Well, can we pick up on one of the questions we had actually? We were experimenting with the idea of actually having live polls, and I don't think we've got them right. But one of the questions was, if you're not live streaming, what's holding you back? You want to lead that, Doyle, because you came up with, I think, a really lovely checklist of why people might not do it. What do you think the main reasons people aren't doing it are?
Yeah, well, that would be like a good discussion too. It's why do you feel that people aren't doing that? I did have some polls, but yeah, go ahead, Michael. Yeah.
I'd say, again, coming from the, technically challenged realm, I think the technology aspects would intimidate a lot of people. Oh, what does that mean? Like, Keith's got headphones and Doug's got headphones and mics. It's like, oh, it's all too hard. So I think that's one thing that definitely intimidates a lot of people. And then getting in front of a camera of any sort, and where you've got to expose yourself and people can see you, that can be very off-putting for a lot of people as well. So I would argue those are 2 contributing factors as to why some folks would not do live streaming.
It's the tech and the whole challenge of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was just thinking it's an extension of public speaking, which most people are very much afraid of. So this is even more, just as you said, Michael, because like the camera sees everything, which freaks people out.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's true. Just like, we were talking about earlier, they can see if you're fake, as opposed to, I'm smiling, they can tell.
Look at me.
I'm happy, I'm smiling. Yeah, they can tell. So yeah, I think it's about
but I think there's a
expose
sweet
yourself.
spot. I think there's a sweet spot in that, and maybe that's because I come from broadcast.
Mhm.
And that's like not to move my hand so much, make sure I'm looking at the camera, because I think that's the expectation. I could be wrong, but maybe the expectation that people have after 20, 30, 40, 50 years of watching television, that that's how you're going to deliver for me. And I think what makes it fun is when, maybe you do something a little more human, but you still are in that zone, I think.
Yeah, I think I
That
agree.
only comes
The
from
technology
sorry,
probably
go
has
ahead,
been daunting for people, but the technology's gotten easier too. Like, I'm a pretty technical person, but I know a lot of technical people that set up StreamYard as an example in 15 minutes and had it up and running. And all they needed was the camera that was on their computer.
Yeah.
That's it. And a headphones. Don't need a microphone. If the computer's got a microphone, it sounds better.
You know, that was the whole point of this show. I'm very proud of this. You know, we all came to the idea of lockdown from a different point of view. But I remember back in early April thinking, I'm going to do a show with Doyle, and this is going to be 10 parts, and it's just going to be Goto. We're starting, and we did Be Live day one. I put my headphones on, and I just talked into the camera, and we really had no idea what we were doing. And I wanted to do it from that point of view to say that if we can do it, we just bought a pair of headphones from Officeworks, a little bit of a mic. We can use the mic and the camera on the webcam or the laptop if you want, but every piece of tech you add adds a level of professionalism. I wanted this show to be a complete decoder for people who have never done it. I don't want this to look like TV yet. I want it to be the show that people can watch and get comfortable, and then they can come in our show, and then they can have their own show, and then we can go on their show, and we can support each other when we're building a community. And I specifically wanted this show to be that, and I'm so proud that it is. And who knows where it'll go from here? But you know, we've created something really quite lovely here, and a community is building, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And that was the goal to say, well, we haven't tried everything with live streaming. I mean, Keith, you've been podcasting for quite a while. I've been podcasting for quite a while as well, and then live streaming for a number of years type thing. So it wasn't necessarily, we had I was using Be Live platform for like 3 years because it was there. It was easy. I knew how to use it. Yes, they were doing upgrades, but at the same time, you know, there's got to be a bigger story here. There's got to be more to it in terms of how do you, people in different situations or scenarios and wanting to try different things. So yeah, Keith and I got together and said, hey, why don't we try this? See what it does, see what happens. And as Keith mentioned, sometimes it just fell flat on its face because nothing worked when we would try different combinations. And it was interesting to be able to test that and to see it so that we can then say, no, don't try that.
And I see there that you've actually got the comments to work, Doyle. Did you get the comments to work? Is there a comment there?
Well, no, there is the chat box, but I don't have in-screen comments. So that is a drawback of using Zoom, is that we don't see comments. We do see chat. And so, yeah, if anybody wants to chat as well. I've been monitoring Facebook. I haven't seen any, but it's a little bit of a distraction, quite honestly, because producing a show and doing a show is quite difficult. And that's why Keith is here too, because sometimes I've got to figure things out. So he'll take over and he'll talk for a bit, or I'll talk and he's, you know, retweeting and all that kind of stuff. So it does take a fair bit of effort to be able to do that. You can do it by yourself. I've done it by myself a lot with, you know, multiple people on a show, but this is kind of a different level too. So it's a lot more fun too.
I said to Gail today, there's a lot of moving parts here. I mean, we had to take us 10 minutes to describe how many components there are to get this show to work. And so we don't want to tell you all of that. We want to just basically say, start where you are, have a go, have a guest, buy a mic, get a webcam, add layers as you go, because Doyle often says this: you don't know if you're going to like it. Don't spend thousands of dollars and just to get all the stuff. Have a go, try it. If you dig it, buy a better mic. If you're really digging it, buy a better pair of headphones. If you're really doing it, then add Restream or Zoom, and suddenly the layers build. It's a little bit like learning guitar. You buy a $50 guitar and you think, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. Maybe I'll buy a Fender. Then suddenly you buy a Marshall. Then suddenly you join a band, and then suddenly you've got a song. Then suddenly you've got a gig, and then suddenly you've got a video. This is all.
And then suddenly you're live streaming all that stuff.
And then suddenly you're hanging out with David Lee Roth.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is a throwback to last week's show.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, tech aside, like let's talk a little bit about these fears, because I think that's been a huge part of this and the behaviors behind it. You know, it is a little bit of tech, it is a little bit about speaking. You know, maybe there are what are other factors, and how do we overcome this? Because I know I had that problem too, and finally I had to say, you know what, I'm just gonna pick one and I'm gonna go with it. and sometimes we just need to do that, but sometimes we don't. And even after I've been broadcasting for years, it's like, oh, do I really want to go live? How do we overcome the fears?
I think the one thing that I think we're going to see is with all these conferences, like we talked about travel. So here we are, all parts of the world. Some of my favorite places I've visited, we're all communicating. But think of the big events. The events now need to go live. So this technology is going to get better. And I think what you're going to see is a whole new business show up where there's going to be whole teams that do nothing but production for live streams for people who want to do bigger events. So like you said, maybe you start small and your show grows, then you do have somebody who's monitoring the comments and feeding you the comments that need to be addressed. And there'll be production people. So then you're just like the broadcaster in that stage, and that you just need to face the camera, answer the questions, or interview the guests. So I've thought, a few of the events I've been involved in, they're moving digital. So, this isn't going away. And it's going to be bigger than what we're all doing here when they get thousands and thousands of people attending and they have a panel of 20 speakers.
So accept it before it destroys you, and do it before.
Well, just try. I mean, I had my podcasting gear, so I didn't have to buy a mic. I had headphones. So I bought I did some research. I bought the older Logitech cam because it got a better rating than the new one. So it was like $70. I bought a tripod. Well, that was $50. And I bought some lights. So I didn't look like I was in the witness protection program. Because people went, hey, I can never see you. You're so dark. So it's like, if I'm not facing the window, or if it's not a sunny day, I disappear. So, bought some lights. The lights were like another $100 or so. So, for less than $200, I had a studio that was good enough. Just use my background. Maybe I should change my pictures once in a while. And that's it.
Yeah. I don't know about those Rough Riders there.
No, it's not Rough Riders.
Can I just say a big
Sorry,
hello to
I know
Erica?
Canadian football.
It's a very, very
Inside
cool idea
joke.
here.
Yeah.
Erica, I really want to pick up on this because Erica McKenzie in Jamaica has been instrumental in this process for me, and I really want to shout out to her. She's in Jamaica, and she's actually currently hosting a watch party for this event with her tribe.
Is she? Oh wow!
How cool is that?
I didn't know that. That's
So
amazing. Yeah.
She's taking this feed and sending it to her tribe. And that's the other secondary result, isn't it? The people that can't come live still want to watch it. So who knows who's watching this? But let me just play on what happened to Erica, and this plays directly to what Doug was saying. Last year in May, Erica contacted me and says, I've got an event in Jamaica. Can you come and speak? I worked it out. It's 27 hours on a plane and a $2,700 ticket to get there each way. So I thought, I'm not spending 27 hours of my life times 2 going to an event. Can we do it via Zoom? And we did. 12:30 at night, I spoke. My wife was in bed. I spoke for an hour. There was 50 people in the room live and 50 people. We used Adobe Connect. 50 people around the world. And when I saw that, I thought, this is the type of conference I want to speak at and go to. Because I don't want to spend 27 hours of my life on a plane and have to wait 8 hours at the airport at New York overnight in the lobby or whatever.
That's not even from Perth.
Yeah.
That's from Melbourne.
So that's for more for you. So Erica was instrumental, and the event went well. There was 50 people in the audience, and there was some people who went live, some of my friends, and there was 50 people around the world who were asking questions. It was very engaging, very new idea at that time. But now with this lockdown idea, this is going to become the new normal. Would you agree?
I totally agree with what you're saying, Keith, and Doug as well. I've always used Zoom for conference calls, sales prezos all around the world. But now it's like you absolutely have to use it for everything. And we do have a production studio and we have a crew. But I think to your point that it's the new normal. It's going to be your church service is going to happen via Zoom. Your business is going to happen via Zoom. And you're going to meet new friends and network online, using these technologies. So I think you're onto something there.
Yeah.
But I'll hop on a plane as soon as I can, because there's nothing beats meeting people face to face and having a coffee, or, has become one of my best friends is a guy I met. I was speaking at a podcasting conference in San Diego, and I said, every morning I go for a Starbucks run. and it was a run because it was 2 miles from the convention center. So we met some people that we're still friends with. So I don't think that we're ever going to, for me anyhow, get away from personal interaction and the desire to sit across the table and have a beer or have a meal. So I'll probably reduce the amount of travel I do by 80%, but the meetings that I'm going to go to will be meaningful. I'm happy to hop on a plane and fly back to Australia. I loved it last time I was there, and hang out for a while. But yeah.
I think your meetings will be more effective when you've built a relationship, streaming online. That way your personal connections are even stronger because you've thrashed out everything. Well, I have got a 7 o'clock podcast, so I'm out, but it was a pleasure to meet you all, and talk to you soon.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. Really appreciate you coming.
Thanks, Julie.
Yeah.
Thanks, Julie.
Isn't that cool though? Like when you think about it, like we're all different time zones. We're coming to you. Keith and I are coming to you from the future.
It's already tomorrow. In fact, I coined this phrase. It's almost always tomorrow in Australia.
There you go. Yeah.
In LA, the difference is actually 19 hours.
Yeah, it's huge.
Can you believe that? 19. We're 19. Is it 19 or I think it's 17?
17, I think.
In the daylight saving period.
I love the California people. It's an easy flight for us. We're 2 hours, 2.5 hours to LAX. It's an easy flight to head down into San Diego or into San Francisco, all places that we spent lots of time.
It's so beautiful there. All right. Well, let's keep moving.
Let me tell you a little story.
Yeah. Oh, please. Yeah.
Okay. I had another Zoom at 5 o'clock. They wanted everybody to show up at 4:30 because there were a lot of people going to be there. It's Spike Lee and I can't remember the other one. It's for a new movie that he has, and we're all going to do it. And I thought, this is great. I'll just record this. This is fine. So I showed up at 4:30, 4:45, 10 to 5, 10 to 6. 10 to 5. I figure I'll do the first hour, and now it's 5:45, and they send an email that says, we got another 30 minutes. We can't settle with the audio. We're still testing the audio. And I'm like crashing up against this. Yeah. And I'm a person of my word. So I said I would be here first. So I waited till the last second. That's why I was the last one here. And I clicked out. And then somebody said something, I don't know, that made me think. I thought, because you were talking about how versatile it is, everything is, Keith. So I just texted her real quick and said, listen, I had to do another Zoom at 6 o'clock. I had to bow out. I'm really sorry. Well, they're going to send me a recording and they're going to send me an audio. And so when I'm all done with this, it won't even really matter. So one more for Zoom.
Well, there's a cool phrase happening. This is a trending topic this week.
And nobody's going to know. Sorry.
Yeah.
No one's going to know. The cool topic this week, and I'm going to find some really cool recordings of this, maybe make a GIF of it. Who are you going to Zoom call? Like the Ghostbusters cast did a Zoom call yesterday.
Yeah. The Handmaid's Tale did one yesterday too.
So who are you going to Zoom call? Ghostbusters. So now it's entered into the vernacular. It's entered into popular culture. Right?
It's become a verb. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
In fact, I think that's what you've made it when you've become a verb.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's cool. There are obviously some restrictions with Zoom, and there's so-called Zoom fatigue and that sort of thing. But I was actually at a session put on by one of the advisors for Holt Accelerator out of Montreal, and they had it was like a selection committee for the startup accelerator, and it's in real life in Montreal. It's quite fun because it's half a day and you go around to all the different tables and they pitch and that sort of thing. They can't do that, so everything was online. But what they did is they created the rooms, which is fantastic. So all the advisors from one group went into the room, and then the teams cycled through the rooms. But what was really cool was that because it's kind of long, it's like 3.5 hours, they actually brought in some entertainment and some fun stuff to do between 2 or 3 of these sessions.
Oh, wow.
So you're not always just, oh, what is this guy saying? How much do they want? And what's their idea? kind of thing. So they brought in this entertainment and this, there was a chiropractor there, and there was some quizzes and some fun tests, and there was some, some interesting aspects of mindset and that sort of thing. So it was a nice break. And so
That's cool.
I was thinking is that, yeah, if you're doing something long, break it up a bit. But it was so well organized.
Well, and get back into the physical. I know a couple of the big paid events that have been canceled in the US, they're mailing in a physical box. So you sign up for the thing and you get this big box of stuff. So they're sending coffee cups and t-shirts that are branded. So people are joining and they're wearing this stuff and they're excited, and there's coffee in there, and there's some candy, and there's some like all the stuff you would pick up at a trade show that you're missing because you don't get to walk around. They're sending it out in advance, which keeps the excitement and raises the excitement level for people that are on the call. And then just like you posted, made these signs, same thing, right? There's interactivity and you're more likely to stay engaged.
Yeah.
That's those are really, really good ideas. For window dressing, that is really, really a great idea.
Yeah. Don't be boring, I guess, right? There's so many different things that you can do.
Yeah, it's human things that we do. It's like, hello, it's like, thank you. That kind of thing, and please.
Yeah,
that's what we say in direct mail. And we were copywriting. They said, well, how long should the copy be? I heard that short copy converts. I heard that long copy converts. So you can be as long as you want, as long as it's not boring.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? If people are interested, they'll read it. If it's boring, man, you're out.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, we're gonna do a lightning round. Top questions. So what would be the top thing you'd recommend to do to get started? So building authenticity, starting with your tech, whatever. So let's just go around the Zoom room. Who's first? Somebody.
What about Michael, given that he hasn't done it?
Yeah, Michael, you've been quiet down in that corner there.
Yes. My view is typically with these sorts of things, just jump in and just do it. And then it'll kind of work itself out and then learn as I go. That's what I did with being a first keynote at an event last year, getting onto video as well. So my view is jump in, do it, and then tap into folks such as yourselves, learn and build. So that's kind of my way of doing it. Just get out there and just be myself, because I don't know how to be anyone else. But yeah, just kind of go in there and figure it out from there. So yeah, and this has been fantastic, by the way. I've learned a lot, been quite inspired to go forward and do more with live stream now. So this has been really good. So thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Crystal, top thing you'd recommend to do or that you're going to do?
Well, I'm going to keep at it because I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. I'm sure that's not a surprise. So I didn't get it right the first time, so I'm not doing it anymore. But it's really more about just get in and, just like Michael said, just keep at it. If it's in your heart to do it, then keep on doing it. You will get to the point where you feel more comfortable and more professional.
It's going to take some work. Yeah, but just start somewhere. Really cool. Thanks, Crystal. Gail.
You know what? I do use it, but I use Skype because I use it in my coaching. And because I've also used it for broadcast on BBC and Sky, so I know how to work it. And I don't record anything. It's all live right then for 2 hours, and it's just them and myself. So it works because they get a sense of who I am. I get a sense who they are. And when you're coaching someone, you're basically ripping something out of their hands, and when they finally let go, and it's like a Rubik's cube, you fix it all up for them and they give it back, and it's like, I like this. I can't even believe I was doing that before. This is really great.
I need help with my Rubik's cube.
Awesome. Give me that Rubik's cube, right? Give it to me. So, so it works for me. It works for me. Audience-wise, typically for me, this might be generational, but I think it's the whole tech part of it. It doesn't amuse me. And I know that Keith loves it. And if he never had to talk to another person in his life, it'd be fine as long as he could like do his tech stuff. I'm not, we couldn't be more different on that. And we agree to disagree. And I admire that. I admire that passion. I just don't see it on my horizon. Now, if someone were to do it for me, that would be a totally different thing, but it would be investing in the entire curve and everything. And it just doesn't feel like fun to me.
Look,
So
let me
if
pick up on that. This idea that this live streaming has two very strong components. One is someone's got to run it. And if you have guests, someone's got to be the guest. And I don't mind running it, and I don't mind being the guest. So I can actually do both, but I can understand totally why people wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like I can understand totally why you wouldn't want to be bothered with it, because there's a lot of moving parts. It blows my head apart trying to keep up with all this stuff, I tell you for sure.
Yeah.
But when we get it to work, it's a real sense of accomplishment from the point of view that you've built a house. I mean, you've built a cubby house for your kids. You've done something that it's really hard. But on the other hand, being a guest is such a compelling gift, because you've got a chance to tell your story on someone else's show who's doing the heavy lifting. So I would actually encourage people to try both and just fit where you fit. If you don't want to do the heavy lifting and have a show, no worries, it's hard. I totally get that. But please open yourself up to being on other people's show, because that's a great way to get your word, the message out, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got something special to share.
Yeah, and I also think for me, which I just want to qualify, it's not that I'm too precious to learn, but everyone takes in information differently. I am best when I have somebody there teaching me how to do it. I'm just slow in that area. And it's like some people can memorize something like that. That would be in my next life. I could do that. It's just, the car don't drive that way. So I think, for me, I accept and honor my shortcomings.
Gail, I want to pick up on this. Because I can tell you for sure in this lifetime, I'm never having a Mac. I can tell you in this lifetime, I'm not ever going to own a Mac.
Okay.
So that's exactly what you're talking about. There's a lot of stuff you can do on a Mac, and everyone I know says, mate, they're so good and they're so cool and they look great and they're easy to use. And I said, no worries. I'm not going to invest in that, because it's the next level for me. And I'm just putting it out there to say I could have Ecamm and I could have a 4K show and it'd look like TV, but I've got to get a Mac. And I've got to learn how to use a Mac. And that's exactly what you're talking about, isn't it? There comes a point where the tech just becomes too much.
Yeah, I think there's so much going on right now that is so overwhelming that if you are clever and you can come up with some kind of workaround, go for it. Go for it.
What do you mean by that,
tough
Gail?
out there. It is tough out there now.
What do you mean, Gail? I'm not sure I understand.
Some kind of workaround. I'm not doing my own live streaming, but I had something before this, which didn't happen. And I have this. And I was here last week, and I have Skype with my clients one-on-one, because I know how to do that. And it doesn't require to have an audience or for it to be recorded or anything like that. So I'm live streaming in the slow lane, because that's really at this particular point in my business and my career, it's working.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I would say. I mean, it comes to me down to two things: a strategy and then your strengths. Yeah. And so when I started my podcast, I had a very clear business case for why I started it. I think if you don't have some strategy and a business case, it's going to be very tough, whether it's live streaming or a podcast or whatever you're doing, to continue it, because at some point you need to be a smart business owner and make decisions of what is driving your revenue, serving your clients, providing leads. And if you A, hate it, or B, the streaming is not your thing, then don't do streaming. It's a tactic. And I tell people all the time, I'm tactic agnostic. The things that I do are things that I like, and I look at analytics. So Keith will like these numbers. I just sent a note out to my email list, and I put a provocative question. And the question was, what's the best social media platform to use to market your business? I intentionally did that because I knew I'd get 1,000 different answers. And I said, I'm going to share my analytics. Google Analytics tells me my most engaged, highest retention, longest time on site visitor comes from a referral from Twitter. So there's a whole bunch of you that say that Twitter's dead and it doesn't work, but it works for me. Yeah. So what works for me may not work for you, and that's okay. You don't have to do what I do, or you don't have to be Gary V. You can do, like you said, do you. Yeah, so I just look at it. I look at it practically. What's a good strategy? So I'm gonna have a live stream. Is it to educate? Is it to serve my clients? Is it to build an audience? Is it, Gail, is it to build celebrity status? So it elevates me to the next level, so I can get public speaking gigs and engagements. Like, why am I doing it?
Yeah. Well, as warriors and world changers, which is what we all are, because we change people's lives for every person that we talk to. You never want to feel bad or badly about any component of your business. You never want to feel badly about it, because this is your dream come true. We're living our dreams come true in this space that we're in, and we have complete control, and we're magic if we allow ourselves, give ourselves permission to feel like shit in this area. We're not treating ourselves well, and we're not treating the energy that allowed us to be able to do what we want to do. And
be what you want to be.
Yeah. And I sometimes catch myself apologizing for that. And I was like, no, you can't do that. Think of a different way to say the same thing that doesn't look like you're groveling. So, yeah, or apologizing.
Cool. And don't call my baby ugly.
Oh, don't call my baby ugly, right?
All right. Cool. So Doug, you kind of answered the question. Did you want to add anything else to that at all, or?
Well, I'll just say, strategy and figure out why, like what's the purpose, right? And I think if you do that, you can build your case and then figure out what your content needs to be. So, there's people who overanalyze and want to get things perfect, and 10 years from now, they still won't be streaming. But so that's one extreme. And then there's the other extreme where everybody wants to be streaming. So they turn on their camera and they just blather because they want to be streaming. So we've all seen both of those extremes. It's like, dude, I know you. Your hair, when last time I saw you, was gray like mine. Now it's chocolate brown. Like you're not, doing yourself any favors. Get off the camera. And then there's a middle ground, which is, okay, I need to take some imperfect actions. I need to get started. It's not going to be great when I start, but I'm going to get better. This is part of my business, and this is the content I need to create that goes with my strategy to meet my goals, whatever your goals are.
Has anyone ever seen the first episode of Wine TV?
Of what TV?
Yeah, Wine TV.
Wine TV.
I think that's Australian, but yeah.
No, that's Gary V.
That's Gary V.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
He's done 1,000 episodes where he gets a bottle of wine, pours it in, makes a comment.
Yeah.
The first one was hilariously bad, and I'm sure he would concede that. But he's got it up there because the 1,001st episode you could play on CNN. It's so good.
Yeah.
And so he took a number of times to get used to it, and then maybe at about 100 he was really rocking it. But the first 100 were shocking. But he had the courage to say, you know what, I'm gonna be bad, but I've got to get better.
But it helps if you're drinking wine, though, Keith. You'd have a couple of glasses of wine, and then you start. So it's easier.
Maybe he did 100 in a row.
I'm drinking coffee out of my
bottle.
Yeah, I'm drinking coffee out of my New York coffee mug now. So if I had wine, it'd be a lot easier, right?
Just test it before you go to air, right?
It's like, no worries, everything's good.
And awesome. Do you indeed, Doug, know someone who's 10 years on still not doing stuff? I mean, is that an exaggeration?
Oh, sure.
Do you know people like that?
Absolutely. I know people that are complaining that they're working right now when all their friends are off because they hate their job. I'm going like, what? So my advice to my kids when they grow up, not my kids are all adults and we've got grandkids, was find something that wakes you up 30 minutes before your alarm every day because you're excited, and hopefully someone will pay you for that. And so I know lots of people who spend 5 days a week at a job plus commute time and hate their job, and they've always wanted a side hustle and they won't do anything about it. I don't know why. Like, I try to encourage them, but I'm not necessarily a great encourager. Sometimes I'm more of a kick them in the pants and why don't you just do it and stop complaining? Or if you're not going to do it, then just stop complaining about your job. I don't want to hear it anymore. Yeah. So there's lots of people that for whatever reason won't pull the trigger. And empathy is not one of my gifts.
That's the thing. I mean, you could have the best dreams in the world, but if you're not willing to pull up your big girl pants and get to work, find out what the work is and do it and make it happen, and don't worry about looking like crap for the first 100 shows.
Yeah.
You're doing it and they're not. So there's
what Gary Vee says, right? Gary Vee says that about content. He says, quit trying to produce content that will go viral and just produce content from you and get better. I interviewed a guy on my podcast that did 1,000 YouTube videos before he got traction. 1,000.
Wow.
He just kept.
It's about 1,000 hours before you start getting traction on YouTube. That's exactly what they say. So it's daunting when people hear that, because it's like, oh my God, how many hours do I have to do? They start, calculating it on Excel or something. And it's very overwhelming. So it's like, it's about all of what everybody said. Just jump in, do it, know that it's not going to be perfect the first 40, 50, 80, 90 times, but you're going to learn from it. That's the big deal. You have to learn from it. Otherwise, you're going to be one of those people who hasn't written a book in 10 years and still talking about it.
Yeah.
Well, look at what we've done. Look at what we've done here. The first episode was on Be Live, two of us side by side. Not bad, not awesome. Now we've got.
Oh, Keith, you were awesome.
Well, maybe, but the point is the point is that it didn't look
You're such
great.
a good friend, Doyle.
It didn't look great. Last week, for instance, Keep It Real, my hair was sort of looked like I'd just woken up. That's worth watching just for that. But the point is, here we are, 6 people on Zoom. Looks great, and we did it. We've brought the show forward simply by having a go, and next show will be better again. And then the series 2 will come, and then we'll do it again, and then we'll start doing events, and then suddenly more people will come, and a better, higher profile. Not better in personality, but higher profile people will come on, and suddenly it begins. It's exactly what I'm talking about. You buy a guitar for $50, and within a few years, you're joining the Wild Stallions with Keanu Reeves and doing lead breaks over Steve Vai riffs. I'm talking about Bill and Ted there, which is just about to come out. And suddenly David Lee Roth's the lead singer, and suddenly you're doing gigs with Hailstorm and CZ Quattro's the backup band, and
You're such the rocker, man.
Well, have you seen some of the new content that's coming out now? I mean, I watched the other day some of the reality TV shows, like the live shows, where they're doing house flips and renos. I mean, they haven't been able to do them because of the COVID crisis. So now they have a host, and then they brought on 2 different comedians, and they basically critiqued, and they just went through various snippets of the show and commented. It was, so repurposing at a whole different level. They're taking a TV show that was produced a year ago. They're chopping it up into bits. They're getting people on Zoom to comment on it and rebroadcasting that as a brand new piece of content.
It's genius.
Yeah.
It's genius. That's where they say content is king. 150 ways to say, can you hear me now? It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It is.
You know what does that really well? Do you guys have Antiques Roadshow? They have all these shows from like 2013, and they run the show. And then when they tell you how much it's worth, they tell you how much it was worth in 2013, and then how much it was worth in 2020.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's cool.
Hey, Keith, your mic is
genius. And then
muted.
they can just flip around, as long they don't even have to stay in the same city for the next one. They do anything. They just have a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Does that work better?
Yeah, that works better. Can hear you now. But I think there are companies out there and TV shows that are missing that evolution too, that we've kind of been forced into, because some of the cooking shows, actually Jamie Oliver did it quite nicely, where he's got this cooking show where it's like zoomed in right on him, and I'm not sure if it is live, but it's has that feeling of live streaming, where a lot of those types of shows could really take that to the next level, where they create an engaged audience. So instead of just broadcasting MasterChef, like have it live, and then have people like on Zoom and interacting and asking questions, and cooking along too. Like, yeah, okay, might not turn out the same, but
well, we could do that with someone
fun.
that's well known. Like if you wanted to target Gary Vee, to pick on him again, on his audience, there'd be nothing. I don't think there'd be anything wrong with us going through one of his video things and having 2 or 3 other marketing people comment on it.
Oh, I love that. Let's do that.
So, okay, well, sign me up. But there's a way to, you go, well, how do I create content? I don't know what to say, or I don't want to have a guest. Well, 2 or 3 of us that are marketing people who like or don't like him, maybe there's opposing views, we dissect one of his episodes and have a conversation. So there's lots of ways to create content, and there's a way to basically borrow or steal some of his audience as well.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. So Keith, do you want to wrap up, and then I've got a few things to close with.
Okay. So what we've tried here, let's be very clear on what we attempted. We used Zoom and Restream together. Zoom can have up to 100 guests. So let's see how far we can take this idea. This is purpose built for running events now. Now, I've always avoided traveling, but I can see now that we have to avoid traveling for the short term, and that we will eventually be able to get back on a plane and meet our buddies. But for now, we've got to use the tech. And the tech we're using today is Zoom and Restream. We can have 100 guests sent to 30 places, virtually unlimited. Hello again to Erica, zooming in on this in Jamaica, just to really make the point. So this show was a 10-part episode, or 10 episodes, really on the fly, trying different stuff. Please go back and listen to all of those. We can do some mashups. In fact, that could be series 2, taking bits and pieces from other shows and commenting on them.
Yeah, a whole series of your laugh.
Yeah.
I am going to make that a ringtone.
I'm just going to take it. I'm going to tell a joke, and then I'm going to play Keith's laugh at the end. I'm going to tell another joke and play Keith's laugh.
Well, in an environment where you can't have a real audience, you could just imagine me double tracked or triple tracked, or 100 of me in hydrophonic.
Well, dad jokes have gone to granddad jokes, and nobody appreciates them.
Brilliant. What do you think, Doyle? What do you think the takeaway from this whole show, and indeed this show in particular, is about?
Well, I guess just understanding really what it is that's important, and kind of trying to cut through what's stopping people as well. And so we've kind of had some tech challenges, and we've kind of busted through. But at the end of the day, it comes down to simplicity, and how simple can you make it. You can use this thing and just go live with this too. So you don't have to have a complicated system. It does depend on your audience. It depends on your building blocks and your content, as well as we obviously talk about our live streaming ABC. So it's important to really kind of put those pieces together. How do we do it? Well, we had, fantastic guests like yourselves. We've had fantastic comments and questions from our audience as well, to say, hey, what about this? Or how do you do this? And yeah, we failed flat on our face a few times too. But it's because we tried, and we kind of got out there and did it. So I think that that's sort of the real key message that everybody here is saying too, is that just bloody go do it. It's not that complicated. You can start with something really simple. I was making a picture graph. I won't show it now, with sort of outlining where can you start in terms of what's easy and how to do it and that sort of thing. So it's really important to just get started, get past the fear, get past the obstacles, and away you go. What I did want to show everybody as well is to keep in touch with us down the road, I'll put it in the chat, but I'll also screen share here. I just wanted to show you a few quick things as well, in terms of what happens next, right? So we've got our live stream launchpad, which we call it, and that's basically a page that says, here's all of the sort of the components that we have. It's built on FYI.to, which is a software developer. It's like a content management system. It's really quite cool. So anyway, it has all of our episodes. It has all of the tech that we use, some of Keith's amazing Twitter polls, just to kind of get in touch with the content that we've been able to produce as well. And then we also have what we're calling our 12-day live streaming challenge coming up. We're hoping to launch that for June the 30th. And that's basically taking everybody through these core steps, the live streaming ABC. So you identifying your audience, creating the building blocks, and 3 is designing your content around that. So we're going to be looking at, strategy. We're going to be looking at how do we actually build this, and how can you actually either go live during that challenge, or how can you improve your live stream as well over that time period as well. So we've got a really cool structured program, 3 days basically in each category of audience development, building blocks, and then content development. And then we'll be practicing, because I think that's one of the huge areas as well, practicing your live streams in our private Facebook group as well. So we're hoping to launch that very, very soon. So keep in touch with that. And one way to do that is we're on WhatsApp as well. You can click the link and join us in the Livestreaming Decoded WhatsApp group. And just to share your stories, share your information, ask questions, see what's going on, what things we're doing and how we're doing it and that sort of thing. So would love to all have you join us as well as part of the conversation. So without further ado, really want to thank everybody for being here. If you're watching live in the audience, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch us. Hopefully we've taught you something. Hopefully you've learned something. And for our guests here on Zoom, Doug, Gail, Crystal, Michael, and who else? We had Crystal and Sarjeet as well, who joined us earlier. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, both you and Keith.
it.
Enjoyed it. It's been a blast.
Thank you. This is a wonderful idea.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Wonderful.
It's
Thank
great.
you.
So we'd love to see you all around again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so thanks for joining. And hey, if you want to stick around for a bit, I'm stopping the live stream.